Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're jumping right in today to completely shatter this stubborn illusion that quality management is all about rigid rules, strict compliance, and people in lab coats holding clipboards. It's really not. Today, we're unpacking the actual bedrock of sustained success in any organization. And spoiler alert, it has a heartbeat.
So think about what really drives a business forward in our fast-paced, complex world. I mean, when we look at standards like ISO 9000, it is incredibly easy to just get lost in the dry, technical vocabulary. Processes, constraints, audits, all of that. But if you strip all that away, the true driver of an organization's ability to thrive, it's not a machine. It's not some fancy new software program. It is deeply, fundamentally human. And that reality is brilliantly illustrated by Leo Colombo during a BSI expert panel on quality and innovation. He said, "For us, it's a learning process. Nobody gets mad if you fail." See, in traditional quality management, failure is almost always seen as a defect, right? Something to be ruthlessly eliminated. But as we navigate this rapidly changing world, a truly successful organization actually embraces failure as a crucial learning step. It's a complete 180-degree mindset shift. Moving on to Section 1, the human side of quality. Let's zoom in on the micro level first and see exactly how people sit at the absolute core of sustained success. The crucial takeaway here is that a truly effective quality management system, it's a dynamic, living social organism. It is absolutely not just a dusty manual sitting on a shelf in HR. The official ISO 9000 standard actually points out that organizations share a ton of characteristics with humans. They're adaptive, they learn, and their overall performance is entirely dependent on how the people inside behave. You literally cannot have quality without collaboration.
Which brings us to Section 2, engaging your internal team. We're going to focus on internal collaboration and our first core principle from the ISO 9000 framework.
The core definition of engagement of people explicitly states that without competent, empowered, and engaged individuals, your capacity to create value basically flatlines. And notice those specific words, at all levels. Sure, top management builds the strategy, but it's the people at every single layer, the folks on the factory floor, the ones taking customer calls, who are actually delivering the value. Empowerment means giving them the authority to make those critical micro decisions without having to wait around for a manager's rubber stamp. And when you genuinely involve people, man, you don't just get compliance, you get a massive spike in trust. People stop hiding in their little departmental silos. They start truly caring about shared values and actively hunt for ways to improve the daily workflow. Why? Because they feel ownership over the outcome. They throw themselves into improvement activities because the organization's goals have essentially become their own goals. All right, Section 3, empowering people for success. So, how do we actually create this kind of environment, especially in cultures where a strict hierarchy can totally stifle innovation? During that BSI panel, Leo Colombo pointed out something fascinating. He noted that in regions with very strong senses of hierarchy, people are often super reluctant to express new ideas. But think about Thomas Edison for a second. He didn't view his famous experiments as failing 900 times before making the light bulb. He just learned that 900 materials didn't work. An empowered learning culture completely removes the fear of the boss's wrath and replaces it with the freedom to test, fail, and innovate. And the ISO 9000 standard actually gives us a concrete playbook to destroy that workplace fear. First, communicate clearly so everyone knows their individual contribution actually matters. Second, empower them to take initiative, literally, as it says, without fear of punishment. And third, openly recognize and acknowledge the people who take risks and learn. This isn't just some HR guideline, it's practically a mandate for psychological safety directly from a global standard for quality. Now, for Section 4, the power of the network. We're zooming out here to look at external ecosystems and how all that internal engagement builds into something much, much bigger. Because just like you don't operate in a vacuum, neither does your company. To thrive, yes, you absolutely must support your internal members, the employees, the management, but you are also deeply intertwined with external parties, providers, investors, and honestly, society as a whole. Your environment dictates your context, and you are entirely, inescapably interconnected with all these external networks. Let's explore that further in Section 5, Managing External Relationships. This is our second core principle. So this is where we really have to shift our mindset. You simply cannot treat suppliers like they're disposable vending machines for parts or services. They are a literal extension of your own business. Think about it. If a critical provider struggles to get raw materials, your production line stops dead in its tracks. Therefore, managing these relationships with deep mutual respect isn't just good PR, it is an absolutely critical strategy for the survival and the quality of your own organization. By actively sharing your resources and your expertise with your partners, you're essentially forging a shared shield against the massive risks of today's volatile markets. You literally pool your expertise to create value that neither of you could ever achieve alone. This creates a super stable flow of products and a deeply rooted, common understanding of values and objectives that crosses company lines.
So how do you actually pull this off? Well, first, figure out who your relevant, interested parties, your most critical partners actually are and prioritize them. Then we need to stop squeezing them for quick, short-term discounts. You have to balance those short-term gains with long-term stability. Share information, give them actionable feedback, and establish collaborative development activities. Celebrate their wins just like you would your own internal team. It's all about moving completely away from purely transactional relationships and stepping into a space of true collaboration. Bringing us to Section 6, the collaborative future. This collaborative mindset isn't just a nice-to-have anymore, it is a fundamental necessity. With the absolute explosion of Industry 4.0, things are moving incredibly fast. If you think your organization can somehow master AI, the Internet of Things, smart manufacturing, and big data all by itself in some isolated room, you are setting yourself up for failure. The complexity is just way too staggering. Isolated, siloed organizations simply will not be able to keep up with the pace of change. Collaboration is mandatory. As Leo Colombo from the BSI expert panel pointed out perfectly, it's impossible to manage all these technologies in-house. Collaboration is the way you can survive. You have to form consortiums and lean heavily on your external relationships to navigate this total intoxication of new opportunities. No single entity has the resources to figure it all out independently anymore. Relying on the specialized knowledge of your external partners is exactly how you survive. Collaboration is your ultimate safety net, for sure, but it's also your only reliable growth engine. So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to reflect on your own workplace. Are you just a cog in a machine, or are you actively shaping an engaged collaborative ecosystem? Because mastering these deeply human principles, engagement of people and relationship management, is the true blueprint for sustained organizational success. Whether it's empowering the person sitting at the desk right next to you or building long-term, trusting relationships with your external suppliers, the future of quality isn't mechanical, it is entirely relational. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I challenge you to look at your own organization today and ask, are we just managing fear or are we actually managing relationships?